No, unfortunately, I do not believe that this will affect the prime minister's policies. We have seen significant demonstrations, not this big. The one that today and the one last week, which is even bigger. It's the first time we've had hundreds of thousands since the demonstrations of 2023 against the so-called judicial reform at the time. Rather than being a judicial reform, personally, I think it was a case of a judicial wrecking ball. And there, the demonstrations did have an effect and forced the government to back down. I don't think that that's going to happen today. The prime minister seems to be giving precedence to his own political survival over just about anything else. But we do see people saying that the time has come to end the war simply because the hostages, they don't have time. We saw the pictures of emaciated, just of some of the hostages starving to death a couple of weeks ago. They have very little time left.
And of course, one of the big concerns from those who are out on the streets and have been calling for a ceasefire is that this renewed military offensive on Gaza City is just going to put those hostages in further jeopardy.
That is probably the case, or certainly very likely so. On the other hand, the government does say, and on this I think they're correct, that Hamas it's a terrorist organization. It is pretty much the embodiment of human evil. And if it could be fully destroyed, it's been defeated, but it still has pockets of military capability, of pockets of resistance. If it could be fully destroyed, then that would be a very welcome thing. I share those who are skeptical whether that can happen. And we see even the IDF itself has frankly opposed this operation. Once the political leadership makes a decision, they have to carry it out. But they've been concerned about the dangers to the hostages, and I think they also have their own doubts whether the objectives will be achieved.
Do you think that Benjamin Netanyahu will press ahead with this attempt to actually gain military control of Gaza City, despite those concerns which you've mentioned there that have been raised by the IDF and others? Or is this just part of some tactic to try to force Hamas to the negotiating table?
Well, that is certainly a possibility that this is a form of coercion. And if it works, then that will be very, very welcome. So far, it doesn't seem to be happening that way. But on the other hand, the operation seems to have been delayed at least somewhat, maybe playing for time here in the hope that the pressure on Hamas will be so great that they will cave in.
There was international condemnation yesterday of the attack on the Nasser hospital in Gaza, the double strike, which killed at least 20 people, including a number of journalists. We've now had this explanation from the Israeli Defense Force talking about how they'd seen what they believed to be a Hamas fighter positioning in a camera, and also saying that a number of terrorists were killed. Do you think that that is an understandable explanation of what happened there?
Well, I mean, calling it a double strike, I think, is overstating the case. There were two shells fired, and the investigation has concluded that this was in violation of both the specific methodology that was supposed to be used here. They were supposed to have sent in a precise drone, and secondly, even that would have required the approval from the general who's in command of the Southern Command in Israel, and that wasn't done. So there were all sorts of mistakes made here. This was certainly not a case of anyone trying to intentionally kill civilians. And on the other hand, this isn't the first time that Hamas has tried to take advantage using hospitals and schools and community centers as a way to achieve their own military goals, abusing this type of facility. And in this case, I mean, horrible things happen in war sometimes, and that's what happened here. But it's not just a camera that was being placed there. I mean, that I think that understates the danger. It's observing the forces that were operating in the area, trying to, which endangers them, and using the hospital as a means of cover.
When we see scenes like this, nonetheless, it does increase the international pressure for some kind of ceasefire deal. Clearly, there are efforts underway. There don't seem to be any serious negotiations at the moment. President Trump was talking about his hopes for that. He has got his special envoy working on this. What do you think are the prospects of Hamas and Israel getting down to some serious negotiations that could potentially lead to another ceasefire, which appears to be the best prospect of getting more hostages out?
Well, I'm not very optimistic, I must say. Look, a ceasefire is, of course, a welcome thing because it saves people's lives. But at the same time, I mean, there are a number of stories going on at the same time which have to be taken into account. One is the tragedy in Gaza itself. A second one is the hostages. And the third one is the danger that Hamas continues to present and the need to, if at all possible, to destroy them, or at least weaken them to the extent possible.
Professor Chuck Freely, former Israeli Deputy National Security Advisor. It's been great to speak to you. Thank you so much.
כל הקהל שמצטרף, בבקשה חכו עד שהמשפחות תעבורנה ואז תצעדו מאחורינו, אחרת זו לא צעדה, בבקשה. תודה רבה לכל העם המדהים הזה שאיתנו, שמצביע ברגליים, עם צמא חיים. ראש הממשלה, אני קורא לך... תמונת הניצחון היא החטוף האחרון! לא נפקיר אותם שם בעזה! למה הם עדיין בעזה? את כולם! את כולם! אנחנו באימה, בעסקה, באימה, עסקה אחת, כולם כולל כולם. את כולם, את כולם, בעסקה, באימה, עסקה אחת, כולם כולל כולם. מתן צנגאוקר, עכשיו, אריאל קוניו, עכשיו, דוד קוניו, עכשיו, אמירם קופר, עכשיו, בר קופרשטיין.
אלונקה על הדבר הזה שנקרא המדינה שלנו, שהיא לא בנויה על אינטרסים, היא בנויה על ערכים שלמדנו, שינקנו אותם בגן, על מי...
כל כך גדולה, אבל כפי שנאמר, זו רק ההתחלה. בלמעלה מ-350 מוקדים ברחבי